Here to break it down, the fallout from Trump's address and the night's big takeaways is Fox News contributor and former White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Karl Rove. Karl, great to see you. So first, just your takeaways from the speech and the president's ability to talk about serious issues, but then have those wonderful, lighthearted moments that people could relate to.
Yeah, look, I think those were some of the highlights of the evening. One of the interesting things was afterwards, the CBS poll indicated that 2/3 of the people who watched it thought that he was a unifying figure. And I think a large part of that had to do with these moments that were inserted into the speech and where the Democrats were absolutely tone deaf. You touched on one that I think touched the heart of everybody who watched it, and that is the 13-year-old kid fighting a life-threatening cancer who gets made a Secret Service agent. There's a 96-year-old mom whose son, Mark Fogel, was brought back out of Russian prisons by President Trump. And in the same response, the Democrats sat on their hands or waved their little signs and dressed in their Barbie coats. I mean, this was not a good night for the Democrats at all. And whoever thought these up, they looked like they were at an auction. You had the little paddles with slogans on them, and you had, and literally, I thought of the Barbie movie with everybody in their little pink jackets, and and Representative Green from Texas, whom we've long thought in Texas is a lunatic. He proved it by standing up there waving around his cane. And imagine what would have happened if Hakeem Jeffries had set the tone for the evening by going over and saying to him, Green, sit down and shut up. And if the Democrats had, at those moments where the president was talking about things that touched the heart of any American watching it, if the Democrats had roused themselves to at least politely applaud, but they didn't, and as a result, it was a very bad moment for them and made them look like exactly what they are, which is tone deaf and out of touch with ordinary Americans.
Yeah, they had a week full of bad PR because of their own behavior. The president noticed, obviously, he was in the room, and this is what he had to say about what they were doing.
Democrats will fight us all the way. One thing I learned the other night, again, I could say, because it's my fifth such speech, that no matter what I do, this group of people in front of us, I could come up with the cure to the worst disease that the world has ever seen. They won't stand, they won't applaud, they won't clap. They'll just sit there with sour faces. And that's what they did.
Karl, it's not that they even just didn't applaud for these basic humanitarian moments, right? I mean, they were bitter and angry. And it seems like you mentioned Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader in the House. They tried afterwards to say, okay, we can't represent ourselves to the country this way. But where do they go from here? I mean, they claim to be the side of the political aisle that's empathetic, that's open to people, that wants to get along, that's cares about democracy, and yet they're booing when the president talked about his wins. I mean, the Democratic Party brand is really in trouble.
Yeah. Well, when in doubt, listen to James Carville. I think he was absolutely right. The Democrats need to shut up, sit down, and get their act together and wait for a moment where they can begin to draw a contrast with President Trump on things that the American people care about. And he's, some of the unfortunate language coming out of the administration is giving them a chance, not now, but later. For example, the president talked about how DOJ has found hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars of fraud. Well, if there's fraud, you want to go after the fraudsters, and you want to indict them and recover the money. And so the Democrats could conceivably wait a reasonable period of time and then start to say, where are the prosecutions? Where are the people that you say defrauded the government? And when are you going to start putting them in jail? But James Carville is right. The Democrats, just by being angry, are not doing themselves any good, and they're not doing the country any good. They ought to try and find some moments where they can agree with the president. And if they don't agree with the president, at least be respectful and don't be sitting there looking like you hate him, because the American people are sick and tired of that. Yes, there are people on both sides who feel strongly about the other side, but the vast majority of the American people do not harbor those kind of deep animus and hatred of political figures, Republican or Democrat, and they don't like it when they see it.
And like you said, the polling after the speech showed that people received it very well and that the president was seen as a unifier. And so Democrats would help themselves maybe by even working with him on some of these big issues. Karl, great to hear from you. Shock. Wow. Some unity and working together in Washington. We'll see if it happens. I doubt it, given what we saw last week. But it's great to see you, Karl. Thanks for coming on.
Great to see you, Katie. Thanks for having me on.